Welcome to the Profitability Podcast. I'm Joey.
And I'm Mackenzie.
Join us as we explore success in business and life, proving that while finance may not feel sexy, profitability is. Welcome back to the Profitability Podcast. I'm Joey Albertson, and today I get to be joined by my husband, cutie husband, Marc Albertson. Marc and I were talking recently about a leadership program that he's doing with his football team. He's the head coach of a football team here in Utah, a high school football team. And we were talking about this leadership program that he was doing. And I just was like, this is actually so relatable. You should come on the podcast and share. Plus, if I was going to have a boy on the podcast, it had to be you. So we had to bring you on. But you'll get to know Marc a little bit in the episode. You'll hear a little bit about how we met and how long we've been together, but also he talks about this leadership program that he's doing and gives some really amazing leadership advice. Leadership things. Talks about some really great ways to be a leader and what that can look like and what it should look like. And even though it was designed for his football team and a bunch of teenage boys, it actually does relate so much to business, which has been so fun for me to be able to talk about some of these things together. So, Marc.
Yes.
Give us a 30-second bio.
30-second bio.
Yeah.
Okay. I am from Washington State. I've been coaching football for 9 years now. I've been married to Joey for almost 10. I enjoy listening to podcasts and hanging out with my family and playing video games with my friends.
Sure. You are still friends with many of your high school friends.
That I met playing football.
We visit home for you often. We love it there. You're from a farm town in Washington, which I thought was a joke when I first heard it, but there are farm towns in Washington. And yeah, you are an amazing teacher and an amazing coach and an amazing mentor for a lot of people, but specifically it seems like your football team. We're major football fans.
Yeah.
Enjoying March Madness right now, trying to get our kids into it.
That's been one of my proudest moments, is having my kids want to watch football and basketball. So.
Or singing Dave Matthews.
Or singing Dave Matthews.
Which was a good moment for you too. Well, great. Let's get into it. Excited to hear what you have to say.
I'm excited.
Not to distract from you being here, but Kinsey, I think we should start with an announcement.
Yes. Officially announce. Drum roll, please. I'm pregnant and having a little baby girl in the fall.
Yay!
Cheers. Adding another
Number 3.
accountant to the fam.
Part of me feels a little sad for Zach, though, having grown up with 4 brothers, that he will not get the experience having a son, potentially.
But maybe that's why they needed all girls.
Honestly, though, my kids, because Zach grew up with boys, he treats them like they're just wild and crazy anyway. So
It's all the same.
I feel like it's that different. Like, they're just as crazy. So
yeah.
He wasn't that disappointed. He said, I kind of knew it was a girl all along. And I was like, well, I think you were just telling yourself that so you didn't get your hopes up and then get them crushed when it wasn't. But yeah, I convinced myself it was a boy. It is not.
It's not.
So 3 little girls over here, and that will be it for us. So
And that will be it. That is the end of that.
That is the end of that.
No, we're super excited. I'm terrified for you to be gone, but I'm happy for
I
you.
did say I didn't want to have any kids in my 30s, and my due date is literally a day before my birthday. So hopefully I'll get induced a little bit early, and then I'll have a baby before my 30s.
Pretty great timing. Yeah, that was pretty good.
So
another bookful baby. I was trying to do the math of how many bookful babies that makes. Between us, it will make 8 between the 3 of us. Well, 4 of us, because we.
Allegedly.
There's Mark knows.
Yeah.
And Bailey's got 3, so that's 11. And then Hannah has 2, so that's 13.
Yeah.
A full stack of team plus subs.
Plus subs.
Co-ed, but
Wait, that's a football team
that is football team.
with 2 subs. They have to play both sides though, which is not ideal, right, Coach?
When you grow up in Idaho, you play 8-man football, and pretty much everyone does that anyway. So
That's true.
If we talk about her quote unquote terrible skin color, can we talk about the fact that it looked like I haven't slept in like years? No.
You look great. Here's the problem is I don't want to seem taller than you. Do you know why? Because that would make it look like I forced you to be here. And I'm very controlled. And we don't need that.
Well, we listen and we don't watch.
Why do
you guys could switch chairs.
I hate this so much.
To be fair, I did offer to do this from the high school, and she said, "No, I want you to be in the video with me." So,
Joey, are you plugged in? Because you're a little.
What a great segue into introducing our IT department, Marc Albertson. Yay!
Hooray. So happy to be here.
Yeah. Tell the people, please.
So happy to be here.
Thank you.
I'm here by my own free will and choice.
Said in not a.
Why are you here today, Mark? Tell us. Maybe introduce yourself to the people. This is the weirdest introduction to an episode that we've ever had. We just started talking.
I've never been on a podcast before. So, I'm Mark. I'm Joey's husband. We've been married for 9.5 years, 10 this year. I am the unofficial IT department of Bookflow and Profitability Project. My other nickname for everybody here is Father Bookflow. I am a high school football coach. I teach Spanish and PE and weights, but I am also a cheerleader to these awesome women in the work that they do.
I thought you were about to say you were a cheerleader at your school. I was like, whoa, I didn't know that.
That would be Joey's dad.
5, 6, 7, 8. That is true. My dad was a cheerleader.
Was he really? I did not know that.
Temporarily, short term, until he threw a stunt with
an individual
who was not prepared, and she leaned back too far and snapped his wrist.
No, that hurts.
It was probably the best.
My mom was a coach and had male cheerleaders when I was little.
Oh yeah, I forget that your mom was a cheer coach.
Yeah, none of her daughters ended up being cheerleaders, but
I mean, she's okay with that. I think she was happy with the basketball life.
Yeah, it worked out.
Would Lance be okay with a cheerleading life?
I think he would have come around to it. Like, it probably would have been rough, but like, he's always been so supportive. It would have been fine.
So sweet. Happy belated birthday, Lance.
I know, on Sunday.
Also, did you know that in 2 days, it's our Met-iversary?
Whoa.
1 decade ago,
Wow.
I met this man on my doorstep of my BYU housing apartment.
No beard.
Just face Mark.
That's crazy.
So it was love from second sight for her. 100%.
Maybe third or fourth.
There was a like happening by this second time, probably. Why don't you tell the people how we met?
Yeah, let's hear your story. Tell us.
Joey and I got set up on a blind date. And we went golfing the first date, and she was mad that I took her somewhere that I really wanted to go and she wasn't very good at. And if you know Joey, it's 100% par for the course, no pun intended. And then we were doubling with somebody else and they wanted to go do something else. And so the golf date turned into a waffle date, which turned into a arcade date. And I think Joey was burnt out after the 5 minutes of being at the golf course.
I don't think.
And then she ended up texting me about a week and a half, 2 weeks later.
Wow. That's a long time.
Slid into those DMs.
Oh, like we texted.
No, wait.
I was like,
Time out. No way it was that long. Because by your birthday, which is April 10th, we were like holding hands and dating. Which is one and the same thing around here. No way it was
a couple days.
Like 48 hours probably.
After her second date of the weekend.
That's true. I did go on a date the next
Did you ever officially ask her to be your girlfriend?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
I even called her to ask her on a date. So.
That's true.
Wow.
I said, was texting not a thing back then? Just kidding.
On the flip phones, you had to do the T9, you know?
Yes, literally, yeah. No, we both had iPhones, but that said, Instagram, we definitely both had Instagram, but it wasn't like what Instagram is now. So Facebook was still the number one. So we Facebook stalked each other before we met, not Instagram stalked. It was definitely Facebook. Even if I had gone on your Instagram, I think it was like 2 pictures of you. And one of them you're holding a gun, which is like not you at all.
Not yet.
Are those still on your Instagram?
I actually don't know.
Marc's whole Instagram is a shrine to my birthday, Mother's Day, and anniversary.
Literally every man.
I'm not a big poster, but
You've posted quite a bit. Like, I can scroll. There's quite a few.
Yeah, that's because we're old.
I think my first post is from maybe 2013. So
It is.
okay, 2013. I know that you were probably what, high school?
Well, I was also high school.
You were graduating that year, and I still had another year, right? Yeah, baby face Mark.
That's your first Instagram post.
Throw that baby in the show notes.
Babyface Mark.
Babyface
First
Mark.
picture with Joey.
Yeah. What was the date of that?
April 19th, 2015.
That was like our first date. I think our first date of us dating.
Cute.
And I think that's also the weekend that you told me that you've had somebody else in mind.
Oh.
Okay, back up.
we listen and we don't judge.
There we go.
But provide some context. Okay. We don't have to get into all the things, but we went on a first date. In my memory, we texted all the next day and continued to text on and off.
Yeah. But we didn't hang out.
Because I did what I am so good at doing, and I texted him and I was like, so what's your deal? Do you remember this?
Yes.
I was like, what's your deal? And I was trying to be, here I am thinking I'm like the most hilarious human ever, like queen of banter.
Small talk is her forte, 100%.
Obviously. And I said something like, what's your favorite movie? Do you have, where'd you go to school? Do you have daddy issues? And Mark fires back,
Yes.
yeah, I have daddy issues. And I went, LOL, that's so funny. And he's like,
No, really?
actually not a super fan of my dad. And so I just got to open up the trauma really early on. It was
We trauma.
I didn't know that. I did not remember that. That makes me laugh so hard. I can laugh about it now because we've all heard about the crazy, but
yeah, the banter.
We do also joke around that I fell in love with Cameron first because of our mutual love of Dave Matthews. So,
And we also joke that I fell in love with your mom first.
I think it's not a joke.
And second.
It's not a joke. It's the truth.
Shout out St. Kelly.
St. Kelly, hashtag for the win. Okay, anyways, so we're texting. We decide to hang out. I invite you to another date.
Yeah, that was the Canyon Drive
Yep,
and Final Four basketball.
that's right. Watch March Madness together.
That was the year
Right.
that Wisconsin played, I think, North Carolina.
How do you know that?
That's so funny.
10 years ago.
Heart don't forget, something like
Can't
that.
remember how often I texted you, but you can remember who won the freaking March Madness tournament.
That is
Decade ago.
That's what I do best.
Okay, and then what?
Then my birthday, you were up at the dental conference and you came down and had dinner with my friend group. And then we watched a movie and we told each other that we liked each other. And then
Doesn't that sound so funny? I like.
rest is history.
Oh my gosh. Like in my journal, probably, I wrote down all the little things. Like I remember that night when we watched Birdman. Never seen it since. Don't even know what it's about.
Why?
But remember, not because there were other people there. Not because of that. I just don't think it was that good of a movie.
It was a beautifully made movie.
Okay. But this is what I remember is Mark put his hand on my leg like this when we were sitting next to each other on the couch. And I was like, this is getting serious. And then I also remember, and I don't know at what point in the timeline this would have been after your birthday. Probably after the baseball game. Before the baseball game, because we went to the baseball game. Mark's mom called Mark on the way home from the baseball game. It's on speakerphone. And she's like, hey, what are you doing? Like, how's it going? He's like, oh, I'm on a date, like, with Joey right now. And she's like, who is this? And he says, Joey Cap, which is my maiden name. And she's like, oh, like Janice Cap Perry. And I go,
Mormon legend.
Mormon, yeah. And I go, yeah, actually, she's my great aunt. And Mark goes, like, pale. Like, just all the blood leaves his face. And he goes, why? Are we related? Gonna be really bad because by that point we had definitely kissed. So, but I do remember that when you tried to kiss me, I was kind of like, I don't know about this. But then when you kissed me, I was like, dang, I think. So it was your skills. Compliment. You're a good kisser.
along with your personality, obviously.
Just the spunkiness of who I am.
No, I tell everybody that on the first date, because our whole first date was set up because I wanted to make somebody else jealous. So we got set up on this blind date by my roommate's, like, non-boyfriend. And he was like, all you gotta do when you're having boy problems is just go on a date with somebody else and post it on Facebook because we're 100. And I was like, sounds good. Find me a date. And he texted a couple people and Mark was the first one to respond. So the whole context of this date was like, I was making somebody else jealous. So I showed up to that date having 0% pressure. I think that because I didn't even have it as a thought in my head, even long before we ever met, that it was ever going to go anywhere, I was totally able to be myself, which meant that when you still wanted to date me after that, I was like, oh, he likes me for me.
The best.
It was great. And then there was drama with a potential other boyfriend that maybe I was going to marry, but it didn't work out, and it became very clear that I was supposed to marry Mark. Here we are, a decade later.
Summer.
One whole game.
We're so old. Okay, that was boring. I didn't invite you on this actually talk about our
Segues
story.
today are just on point.
I'm just here for a good time. What am I here for?
I don't know. The reason that I wanted you on the podcast right now is because this is actually the most we've talked in 4 months. Thanks to tax season. No, when we went to dinner the other night, we were talking about the leadership book that you're reading with your football team. And I was like, this is actually really great information. You should come on the podcast and talk about leadership. So that's why you're here. Also, you're cute and fun and nice.
That's my.
Is that enough?
Those are my characteristics that you described me as.
Exactly. That's what I wrote in my journal about you, in my diary. No, but we have talked about how it's kind of funny. So you've been coaching football like forever. Seems like most of our marriage.
Yeah.
At least almost 8 years now.
Yeah, this will be year 9.
This will be year 9. But you've only done one season as head coach. This will be your second season as head coach. And obviously I've owned this business for really, it feels like 3 years. It's really 4 years, but like quit my job and we've been doing this, really for 3 years. But the last year since the rebrand has been a just totally different level. And so this last year together, we've just kind of laughed at how many parallels there are between what we're doing. And it's been so fun for me to be able to talk about those parallels and like the different, things that we're both going through in such completely different capacities, but the way that like they kind of are the same. It's been fun. So for example, like if I'm feeling like a crappy manager, Mark will be like, oh, well, here's what I've learned at football camps on how to be a good coach, which in a lot of ways is the same thing. Or if I'm, doing posts for social media, Mark's like, oh, I need to post a calendar for the boys on Instagram. Like, I don't know. These are horrible examples, but there's just been a lot of parallels. And so we've been able to like help each other in these new roles. And it's been fun. It's been like kind of interesting that we have such completely different jobs, but sometimes we do the same thing. So one example of that was when we were at dinner the other night and you were talking about this. So talk about what this leadership program is that you've done.
Yeah. So what I've kind of done is I've tried my best to teach boys or young men how to become better versions of themselves. Football itself is very transformational if you allow it to be. A lot of people look at football as the transactional side, which is like the wins and losses, talking finance could be the profits and losses as well. Like,
whoa,
I know,
grateful.
Tell me about it. But I like a lot of the success that we've had in the programs that I've been a part of in the past have all been about making these young men and women that we have on our football teams become the best versions of themselves. And part of leadership is like nobody is born to be a leader. Like we don't have like people have those innate characteristics and they learn how to do it over time, but a lot of people are never put into the position to be a leader. And so what we've done is we had at the end of our football season last year, we had our outgoing seniors vote on off-season captains. And so they voted on 4 to 5 kids to come and become the captains for the off-season. So they set the tone, they set the expectations, they set what the lists are supposed to look like. And then we started reading this book. It's called The Leadership Playbook. It's written by a former basketball coach. And it's just a bunch of little stories about leadership and about people that, they grew up watching or knowing about, and just how leadership starts with one person and it goes to somebody else and somebody else and somebody else. And as we grew and as we started to talk about that more, they wanted to bring more people in. And so they were able to vote on 4 people to bring on onto our leadership council as well. And they started to read the book. And then we decided to add 3 more. So now our leadership council is now 11 kids from, incoming seniors all the way to incoming sophomores, learning how to become leaders so that every time that we start over and we have a new batch of kids coming in, they have the knowledge and the understanding, but more importantly, the confidence to be a leader and show leadership qualities and characteristics.
Do you feel like that is harder for some of the football players versus other football players? Like some of them can just naturally step into it and others really kind of struggle.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of different leadership like characteristics. I have people who are very vocal. I have people who are not. I have people who put in a lot of work, and I have people who don't. And so to help the kids be both vocal leaders and action leaders, can't think of a better word for it, but action leaders, and putting those two together is the way that our team is going to become transformational. And so, you could be the best, you can be an all-state basketball player, football player, whatever. But if you're not a good teammate, have we really impacted the program for good, or have we just increased ourselves and our own self-worth or our net worth or whatever? And so a lot of it is, I think that kids just need to be put into positions to become leaders, whether that's to become a leader in their position group or in a weight room or in a squad that we're going to put into practice in the next couple of weeks, like helping them to find leadership qualities within themselves. They don't have to do it at a wide scale. They can do it at, a 4 to 5 person group.
Yeah. Do you feel like you can kind of pick who the leaders will end up being pretty early on? Like, can you kind of spot it?
Yeah. There's just kids that have they just have a glow. They just have something about them that kind of exudes confidence and positivity. And those are the kids that I look for. A lot of these incoming sophomores that we have, right? They're not the strongest ones in the weight room, but every day they're there. And so I think having a good balance of vocal leaders and action leaders, and ultimately having those two mesh together and having them become true captains is just a work in progress.
I think one of the stigmas around sports, having coached very little and been involved in sports, it's lots of times you expect your most talented player to be the leader. And lots of times that's not the case. Lots of times it's the people who maybe don't play a lot, or, they have these qualities of leadership, but maybe they don't play a lot. And I don't know if you've seen that with your kids so far, but I feel like lots of times people expect it to be your most talented player or your quarterback or whoever. And lots of times it doesn't end up being that person. It ends up being someone else. So.
Yeah. And that's, and part of that book, there's a little section in there that talks about positional leadership. And it's the least impactful way that somebody is a leader is just by strictly being a title, like a captain, just the title of captain. There's so many kids on our team that are not captains, but they set the tone every single day that we're in the weight room. So I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of this comes from, one, are you willing to invest in yourself? Are you willing to invest time, effort, and energy into becoming a better version? And then ultimately, as you invest more and more, that's when the true transformation happens. So even as a head coach, it's just a title. I have to set the tone every day for myself, for my coaches, for my players. And it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of effort, but you have to be able to do those things. And just because you have the title does not mean that they're going to follow you every time.
I also think that since you had the last year's seniors pick people from your current team, not only does that show those people that were picked, oh, someone's watching me, but they can see in themselves because someone else saw in them that they are supposed to be a leader on the team. And I think that's really cool that you had them do that, because now they know that they have some value to give to the team because someone else saw in them, which is really cool. So
Mark is a rock star of culture.
I try to be.
That was a really horrible way to say that. But I'm always impressed that, and I talk about this often if I am talking about you. One of my favorite things is that you're really good at working with, especially these young men who, in my head, are a very difficult group to work with. Not that I work with them often, but it just seems like it's just an awkward time, and like they have enough attitude and enough personality and enough of like their own life that they feel like they're adults, but they don't have the maturity of actual adults. And so it's like kind of this weird spot. Teenagers just don't really make sense in my head. I don't know. You have such a way with like really meeting them where they're at and helping them grow. And you just talk to them in a way that I just see these boys like looking to you for more than just football help. And so I love that you have this leadership program. Like, I think it's so great, but it's also, like I said, translated so much over to me when we have talked about it, of like, it's such a good reminder, because I know some of these boys and I've seen like who has kind of emerged as leaders and who you worked with, and kind of been able to see that from the outside looking in. Like, it's a good reminder to me also that, you know, it's true in business as well. The leaders aren't always the most skilled or the most knowledgeable. And vice versa, when you just pick a leader because they want to be the leader or because they're the quarterback or whatever, it makes logical sense, they are often not great leaders. And so when I think about my role as a leader in the business with employees or, you know, even clients, like, what do I do to get people to follow? And when I try super hard to be like normal leader type and like try and fit into this box, it tends to go poorly. But when I just act on my strengths, then it tends to go better.
Yeah. Josh, or one of my coaches, Coach Josh, shout out Coach Josh. He went to the University of Utah clinic with a handful of my coaches, and they actually had the opportunity to listen to Britton Covey, who is a University of Utah graduate, to high school with the same high school as Joey, and played in the NFL. And the very first thing that he said, he gave him 6 points, and the joke was that he couldn't do 7 because it was too close to his family. So he had 6 points, and the very first thing that he said, and the thing that I'm going to butcher it too. So the very first thing that, you know, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but he says that authenticity leads to consistency, and consistency is better than being loved. And so I think as we don't fit ourselves into a box of, like, there's no perfect leadership book. Like, if it's like the same thing as parenting books, if there's the perfect parenting book, that person's going to make billions and billions of dollars. But like, you have to find a leadership book that fits within your, you know, your scheme of what you're trying to accomplish, and within your belief system, and within your, you know, your thought process, and what kind of is happening with the group of people that you're trying to lead. And as you do that, and as you become authentic, and as you try not to fit in the box, like, if you do that over and over and over again, like, you're gonna have a much bigger impact on those that you're leading.
I think, like, I just love that you're taking, because like, you're giving these kids opportunities to be leaders, but then you're also having them grow as humans, because when football's over, like, not everyone's going to go on and play college. Eventually football is going to end for them, and there's going to be a life outside of that. So teaching these kids to be good humans and good people and good members of society is like going to be so valuable, because they eventually are going to have to be that outside of football. Mila's dance class that she goes to, they have a phenomenal program, and they give these kids opportunities to be leaders, and they teach them to be good humans, like, in just the little things that they do. And that's why I've like kept her in dance, because I'm like, I don't even care if she learns a dance move at this point. Like, they're creating good humans to be good humans out in the world. And that is so, so valuable. And like, I'm sure your kids' parents feel that way, of like, not only are they like playing football and enjoying that, but they're also becoming better people. And that is just so valuable.
And they may not even remember everything that they did in football, but they're going to remember that their coach taught them how to be a leader. And one day when they get a real big boy job, they're going to be like, I learned this from my football coach. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like lessons that they're going to carry throughout their life as they become, you know, as they get into the job field, as they start college, as they grow their families, you know?
Yeah. I agree. I think that's, and I love, as much as we joke that you're like the stereotypical like Spanish teacher who's watching film as part of your job. You know?
I definitely don't do that if you're listening.
Definitely don't do that.
I'm employed by you.
Administration of Jordan High School, but if you did, it's a joke. But like,
it was one time.
As much as you are so passionate about actual football, and we are truly football fans, like it has always for you been about more than the game, because I think you know what it did for you and for your life, not because you played football, but because you participated in a program under good leaders and good coaches who literally changed your life and taught you how to be a good human. And so that makes you want to turn around and make these boys good humans too.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, you know, I've had the pleasure and honor of playing and coaching under one of the best coaches I've ever coached with. You know, Wiley and Jeremy both are just phenomenal human beings, and they both exude this aspect of leadership. So I've actually called Jeremy and Wiley a handful of times to ask them about leadership stuff, and they're always willing to talk, and they're always willing to do it. So like, if I can just be a fraction of what they are, like the world with my, you know, my little corner of the world will be a much better place. So, shout out
Grandpa Ted for that. Okay, so let's talk about this leadership, since we are a business podcast, this leadership program.
Yeah.
You've been doing.
I should have brought my book.
You should have brought your book.
It's all cut up though, so
there's one section that we talked about, which I think that you should share, because it talks about Harriet Tubman, who is one of my favorite humans in history. I really liked that, and it's kind of going along with what we're saying. But then I'm sure that there's been others since we talked lots too that are worth sharing. So
yeah,
give us your leadership advice, Coach Marc.
Wait, did you tell us the name of the book?
Yeah, the Leadership Playbook.
Okay.
So it has like the cover of it has like a locker room behind it.
We'll put the link in the show notes.
Link in the bio.
We should get an affiliate.
This is just Jordan football.
All proceeds go to football program and player fees and all those things.
I'm all for it though.
That's
yeah,
great.
let's actually, know what, like genuinely.
Let's do that. Yeah. Okay.
So there's a couple things that have kind of happened with that book that I find myself even thinking about today. One of my favorite sections of the entire book was, I call it the allegory of the geese. And I think everybody kind of understands, like, they've seen geese flying, they understand the bee, they understand all these different things. But when we read that section, I think it was in December. So it was after I kind of came back out, when I was out for a while, and the boys were kind of in limbo of, you know, not having their coach or their teacher around for a while. And as we started to read this chapter, it was a chapter about leading others. And I think I've always, like, being like kind of growing up on the farm, I've seen geese so much. Like, I've had my own thoughts about geese, but actually, like, reading about what, like, the important things that they do and how they really carry each other and care about each other, and how every goose is important to, you know, the formation. And so it's, you know, a couple of things that they talked about is, like, the reason why they fly in that formation is, like, if they fly in that formation, they can travel 75% further together than they can separately. And I think, like, especially, like, talking football wise, like, football is a very team oriented sport. So if everybody is flying in formation, if everybody is following along with the standards and expectations, then all of a sudden your team goes further and further and further and further and further. And I think business wise speaking too, if everybody has a common goal and everybody's working together for that common purpose, your business goes further and further and further. And it may not be an immediate, like, profitability aspect where you're, like, we have this common goal. We're going to, hit it. And then the next day it's like, cool, lottery win. Like there's a reason why geese fly thousands and thousands of miles. Like it takes time. It takes effort. A couple other things that they talk about in there is like when a goose gets injured, that 2 other geese always fall back and like they stay with that wounded goose. My brain is going
Geese.
like goose.
I know, it doesn't sound very
Goose and geesen, like
goosers.
Those 2 goosers come flying down. But essentially, the concept of the whole thing is that, like, number one, geese who fly together go further. Like businesses that go together in a common goal go further. And it may not take, it's not immediate success because obviously they're not traveling 5 miles, they're traveling thousands. If somebody is hurt or somebody is not doing well, or they're struggling financially or struggling within a business, like it's great to have people fall back on and to help them through and help them process a lot of those, problems that they may be having. We have boys that are going through all different types of things on our program. And so I think like if people understand it and we do what we do, we do something that I learned from Jeremy Scroggins every year. That is one of my favorite. It's a highlight of my year every single year. And we'll talk about that later if we want to. But the last thing about the geese, the goosers that I really find fascinating is I always thought to myself that the goose that's in front is the one that's talking. And I recently found out that it's actually the ones in the back, because they're the ones who are having to carry a lot more of the load. And so they're the ones who are seeing everything. They're like the boots on the ground. And so like they're seeing what it's like every single day. They're seeing if the flock is not traveling fast enough, or if there's ones that are falling behind, right? The one in front is just flying. And I think that's the interesting part about, leadership is I think everybody thinks about it as like the person in the head just barreling through, right? They're not paying attention to what's going behind, but the true leaders are the ones who are behind the scenes, the ones who are working every day and are seeing, customer relations, the ones who are, handling, emails or scheduling or whatever. Like they're the ones who are they're the ones who, like, if you're a leader, that's the one that you listen to. And so like the one in the front is just listening for what the goose in the back is saying, or the goosers in the back.
As women, life demands a lot from us, but there is no reason for you to put your business goals on hold. At the Profitability Project, we understand that your business can't be your whole life. Balancing personal life and work is always hard, and we want to help you make the most of every day. We are here to craft financial strategies to help you achieve the lifestyle you want. With options ranging from online courses to done-for-you services, you'll discover new ways to maximize profitability, streamline your operations, and take the guesswork out of taxes. We have what you need to take your business to the next level. Interested? Learn more about the Profitability Project at theprofitabilityproject.com. That's theprofitabilityproject.com. Get ready to grow your business without sacrificing your entire life. Isn't it also true that, like, maybe, I don't know, but I've heard that, like, the one in the front goes until they get tired and then they fall back and then somebody steps up and then they fall back and then somebody steps up. Like, I think that's also, like, an important analogy of, like, everyone kind of has that point where they have to be in the back where they're telling the group what to do, right? So, like, everyone has to have, like, step into that opportunity of, like, okay, I'm in the front, I gotta just lead the pack. Like, I'm just head down, I'm going, and I'm just listening to the people in the back. And then, like, when I've hit my capacity, I have to fall back and I now have to take a new position. And so I think that that's also important of, like, you have both of, you talked in the beginning of, like, you have the people who are, like, naturally talented that are leaders in that way because they have the natural talent. But then you also have the people who are just more vocal, like they can be more of a leader as they talk. And that's kind of like the same analogy. You have that person in the front that's leading with their strength or whatever. And then you have the people in the back that are navigating, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like even like we've been through lots of those motions of being in those different positions. And like, even right now, I feel like we're readjusting and we're all kind of pulling our part. And I really do like this analogy. When you were talking about it, I'm like, we've done this multiple times. And it's not a bad thing. Like you said, it's just everyone has to play their part and it all works out in the end. But at some points, the people in the back are like, how is this going to work out? But that's business for you. It doesn't ever go perfectly. You may be in a storm with your goose friends, but there's always the leader. And yeah.
Well, and I think too, like the trust that they have to have, like the trust that the goose in the front has to have to trust that the people behind, or the geese behind him, are going to tell him if something goes wrong. Yeah. Like that's hard. And you have to find that in business as well, as far as like, you have to trust that like, okay, I'm like heads down, I'm going to lead this pack. And I hope that like, I have to trust that the people behind me are going to like tell me if something's going wrong, or, you know, and that's huge on the football field. It's huge in business. It's huge in your personal life. Like you have to trust that, like if you're in one position, that the other position is going to pull their role and what they're supposed to be doing. And I think with us at the Profitability Project, we've definitely held those roles multiple different times, where it's like, I'm heads down, I'm working, like you got to tell me if there's a storm coming, you know, like, and you kind of have to rely on each other that way, or, you know.
Well, and I was thinking about what Mark said about how they go, did you say 70%?
75%.
75% further together. I'm like, there is no world in which this business became anything without us being a team from the get-go. Like, there's a lot of finance women, girls, who I connect with online and love connecting with online, and we talk often. And just yesterday I was talking to one, we did like a coffee chat, you know, online. That's business world.
Sorry.
Or you get on for like a 30-minute meeting and there's no agenda. You just get to know each other. That's what that means. We didn't actually drink coffee. I know you were concerned. It's really a Coke chat, but that sounds way...
But we wouldn't judge.
But if it was coffee, it would be fine.
We call it lunch and learn in
the educational realm.
Yeah, except there's no learning happening, except you're learning about each other. So it's just very casual. Anyways, I was talking about how I talked to, you know, I had this meeting yesterday, but this happens to me often, where I will talk to finance people and they'll be like, when did you get a team and how did you know you were ready? And when did you make your first hire? And you know, all these things. And I'm like, it wasn't even a conscious thought for me. Like, I mean, obviously it was, but I remember so many phone calls of like, hey, I'm doing this on the side, but I've got my corporate job, but Kinsey and I are best friends. So I'm calling Kinsey anyways. We're like talking. And then I remember at least one or two times calling and being like, I got to get you over here. Like, we should do this together. But again, like, I'm not actively thinking I should quit my job. This is just kind of like a fun, silly, like, hey, wouldn't it be fun if you came over and we worked together? Like, and then all of a sudden, it truly felt like I woke up one day and we got this opportunity. And so then I called Kinsey and I said, I think you should come work for me. And I think we should both quit our jobs and do this. And that's literally as much thought went into it. Like, I knew that Kinsey was a workhorse. I knew that she mirrored a lot of talents for me, of like, she had a lot of strengths that I don't have. And it just, it didn't even feel like a decision as much as I like had it in my brain. It didn't feel like, oh my gosh, like, are we going to do this? Like, quitting my job was definitely a decision where we sat down and we talked about it. But as soon as I knew I was quitting my job, I was on the phone with Kinsey and like telling her to quit her job. And I think that just is because I knew because I was lucky enough to like have worked with Kinsey before, that there was no other way to go that additional 75%. And then, I mean, we talk about it, it seems like all the time and in every episode, but because it's true, when Becca joined, it was like the additional push of like, I don't know, if we were to go back to the analogy, like having the wind behind you, you know, like that's what it felt like when Becca joined. And we've had a few hires like that. And then we've had a few hires where it's felt the opposite, where it feels like we're constantly pushing up against the wind. And so thinking about that analogy in terms of like hiring for the business, I think being able to say like, okay, is this person good for this specific role that we have a gap in now is a good conversation to have. But then also to say, is this person, and maybe not like technical skills and like job duties all the time, but is this person the type of person that will rotate in this formation in a way that gets us to that goal 75% faster? Or is it going to feel like we're flying into the wind? And for some reason, that just feels like a better, easier way to talk about hiring or thinking about hiring.
Yeah, there's definitely like the aspect of like financially, can a business sustain a new hire? Like, what does that look like? But then there's also that culture side of it, right? Like Mark was saying, you know, he's big on culture and you've got to fit into this culture that we're developing. I think something that Joey and I have always talked about as well is like, we want someone to come in and fit into this culture that we have built, and so that we don't feel like we're constantly like flying into the wind, fighting it, you know, like in track when you have to wear like the parachute to like make yourself stronger, and it's like the worst thing in the world. Like, you know, it's terrible. But yeah, it's, well, like my train of thought went, but I think culture is a big part of that, as well as like fitting people into culture as well as fitting into a seat.
No, the other, there's two other ones that probably are that I like really from that one is the one about Harriet Tubman. You know, you think about the times, you think about, you know, just the era that they were living in. You know, there was two groups of people that were very much like mistreated and underrepresented, and you know, Harriet Tubman fit into both of those categories. And so for her to be in, you know, if you don't know, like she was like 5'2", like she was teeny tiny. And so like for her to become the conductor of the Underground Railroad, like people looked at her and they didn't see her as, you know, an African-American woman. They saw her as the leader. They saw her as somebody that is going to get them to their destination. And in the very end of that, I think, I don't remember exactly what it said though too, but it was like her greatest joy was what she did to free the slaves. And I think that was like the impactful thing for me, is like, what is our greatest joy? Is our greatest joy the money? Is it greatest joy the work? Is our greatest joy the freedoms that we have because of work and because of, you know, the jobs that we have? Or is it just like every day are you thinking about how bad the job is, or like how, you know, ruling the experience is? And so I think like that kind of opened my eyes to, of like, every day I have to bring it, and every day I have to show my players and my coaches and in the community that I coach in, like, we are a team that is worth cheering for. And I think that has been just, if there's been one piece of reading that I've done over the last little bit, audio booking, because I can't read, but like that was really impactful, is like, I've had to sit down and think about like, what is my greatest joy? And I think that there are lots that every year, every season is something different. Like once June hits, like, I'll be honest, one of my greatest joys is going out to football at 4:30 every day and spending, you know, 4.5 hours with, you know, those young men and women and helping them become the best versions of themselves. Like in the off season, it's being home, and it's finding ways to spend time with my kids. Like, I think at the end of the day, work is not always fun. And sometimes it's a drag. Sometimes you're hitting the storm. Sometimes you're doing, A, B, C, and D, and you can't go home and do one thing. You just need to just veg out and watch TikTok all day long. But if you think about it in what are you trying to accomplish? Where are you trying to go? Are you trying to be the geese? Are you trying to do it by yourself? And so finding ways to realize what your greatest joy is, and then doing it for your greatest joy provides a lot more fulfillment in what you're trying to accomplish.
But also, I think the piece of it that I really loved was that you mentioned at the beginning, was that she was such an underdog in so many ways. We hear about Harriet Tubman and we're like, yeah, obviously Harriet Tubman. She's a legend, right? But before she conducted the Underground Railroad, she was just a 5'2" slave. I mean, she was a nobody. And now history will remember her forever. And it's just kind of cool to think about, obviously circumstances make a big difference. But if she said, I don't care about my size, I don't care about the fact that I'm a woman, I don't care about the danger that this is putting me in, I don't care about any of these things, I'm still going to do it. That kind of tenacity is pretty inspiring too, of despite everything else, I'm still going to show up and do this. And to your point, completely for somebody else. I doubt she was I hope that the history books write about me when she's, in the most dangerous situation of her life. Yeah, I mean, she just genuinely wanted to help people, and that's what, got her there. I think by the end of her life, it wasn't as dire, and she had some recognition before she died, but probably not a lot. And the reality is I don't know for sure, but I think in the book that our kids have about Harriet Tubman, it says that she got to have a little bit of rest before she died. But I'm sure she had no idea what her true impact was until long after she was gone. And yeah, I don't know. It's
yeah, she may not even realize, that impact is maybe it's not 5, 10, 15 years after it happened. Oh, I was just going to say, her impact isn't necessarily she didn't realize the full impact of what she did until probably after she was gone.
Well, we probably nobody even actually recognizes the full impact, because if you think about she freed one slave, but then if we will really truly follow that entire thread of that one slave, how many people's lives did that affect? How many generations did that affect? Kids on kids on kids. That's hundreds, even just through that one thread. So if she freed 50, truly, she changed the world.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, this whole story you guys are talking about, this can relate to the clients that we kind of have. There are a lot of small businesses, women-owned businesses, and women-owned businesses are becoming more and more of a thing. But it's not always an overnight success. It takes time, and it takes patience, and you might not be huge in your business, but there's opportunity for it. And I just loved everything. It's just, there's so many great historical stories that can relate to us now, and how we can see success open doors for small businesses. And so I don't know if that made sense, but I was just thinking.
Well, I mean, we think about, not that we're out here being, pioneers by any means. Like you said, women-owned business isn't exactly unique. But to think that we're contributing to making it more regular, more talked about, done more often. So that hopefully, like, by the time our kids grow up, it's a little bit less intimidating. It's a little bit less difficult. Like, accounting especially is very much a male dominated field, but we're choosing to do it anyways. And there are many times that people feel the need to tell us that we should not be doing this. And, don't agree with the direction that we're going or whatever it might be. And we're choosing to do it anyway. So it feels bigger than just, I have a job to make money or like a brand that I'm proud of. Like it does help it have more.
Yeah. And finding the joy, like you were saying, Mark, like that's really important too, because you can get so caught up in, it's Monday again. Like I have to go and work. But like if you're working towards a goal of having this huge business, finding the joy in the little things, even if it's a day by day joy, like that will change your mindset and you will grow into the leader that you need to be for your business. Because trust me, there's days that the joy is not there, but
not here. You wouldn't be.
I never dread Mondays around here. Mondays are my favorite day of the week, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Was there one more section you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, I have to remember like the audience of who is going to be listening to this besides Coach Dylan, who will be tuning into this.
Coach Dylan, I forgot.
So, one of the things that I read about last week, the last time that we kind of talked about with these boys, we've taken a little bit of a break from it, just as we've reintroduced expectations and stuff. But one of the top teams in the NFL was the San Francisco 49ers in the 80s and 90s, and there was something that was said from their coach about the culture and the expectations of their team, and they talk about like how the veterans know that the expectation of their team is to train up the rookies, because eventually those rookies become their replacements. And I think about that in the sense of like women-owned businesses, and I know that I'm probably the last person that should be speaking about women-owned businesses, but like there's a lot of women who have pioneered lots of different businesses. They've weathered that storm. It was like there have been, women over the last 50 years, 40 years who have pioneered a bunch of these, like, accounting, like you think about like women at NASA, like all these different like huge contributions to women-owned businesses and women in business. And I think that I think about that same sort of sentiment of like the veterans are going to train the rookies because the rookies will become the replacements. And I think that like if you are somebody within a business that is unique to women-owned businesses, or you have a business that is a niche and you're trying to reach out to people that have been in your shoes before. And I think that like that's what I love about coaches clinics that I go to, is that like these coaches know way more than I do, and so they're okay with asking. I ask stupid questions all the time, and they're like, no, like fire away, like let's sit down, let's go have coffee chat or whatever it is. But like there are people out there that want to help out, and there are people out there that are willing and want women-owned businesses to succeed. And I think that ultimately what you right now are doing to increase the amount of women in business, like you are going to be training up a lot of the rookies, the people who are just coming in. And so be open to people asking questions, be willing to reach out to people who are just starting. Because I think at the end of the day, like, I think it would be sad to have a lot of work done for it just to crumble.
Well, and one of, I think, the coolest things that Joey has done has put together a network of specifically finance girlies, because that's what we're in. But she's put together this network of people that, I mean, I'm amazed at the people that will ask questions in that chat, and people will chime in and help them and say, oh yeah, like I have this issue, or I have experience with this, like here you go. And I think that it's just so amazing that Joey has put together all of these female women in finance business owners to come and collaborate. And there's been times where they're like, hey, I have this person, they're not my ideal client, so I want to give them to someone else. Like, who, do we have anybody in the network that would want to do that, and things like that. And I think it's just so inspiring to have a group of women that are looking outside of themselves, and they're not being selfish. They're not being like jealous that anybody is picking up a client. They're truly like looking for the best interest of their clients and the people that they're helping. And in turn, it's like making these business owners even better. I know there's been times where like we've asked questions in the chat, like we're having this issue with this certain software, or we have this client that's having this issue. Like, has anybody had experience with that? And the amount of people that are willing to help in and jump in and help and talk us through it is just amazing. And it's truly amazing, the networks and ability we have to have those people surround us and help us grow better businesses for the people around us.
Yeah. I think I've quoted this often, but Kaylin Priest always says that when women make money, they build longer tables, not higher walls. Women have a talent of their go-to response is to build a longer table, not build higher walls, meaning their immediate reaction is like, who can I bring in, or who can I help, or who can I look to for help, or like we just tend to collaborate really well. And I've seen that in all the communities that I've been a part of, that and I think that's true for people and business owners in general, but for some reason it seems like women especially, that's like their go-to response. And yeah, we've definitely benefited from it. I love doing it. I love going down to EDU and being a part of their mentorship program. We talk about having good mentors all the time down there and what a difference that makes in business. But I also liked what you said about like raising their replacement, because obviously both of us are parents of young kids, and so this affects both of us, but maybe women just a little bit more because we tend to be home a little bit more. I don't know, but like knowing that you're doing this business and you've got people kind of watching you that you are responsible for training up, but then we also have our own kids that we're responsible for training up, and that's a lot of pressure sometimes, of like, especially when you're working, like, are we doing the right thing or the wrong thing, or all of those doubts that come with being a parent, and then a working mom especially. It can be hard, but knowing like that's the ultimate goal, and regardless of how you do it, whether you do it through mentoring and you're in business, or teaching them your way of being a mom or whatever, right? Like, it's just kind of cool to think about what a huge responsibility and privilege that is for all of us.
I was saying, normally we ask, where can we find you?
You can find me at Jordan_beat_wall, or on the Jordan Beat Digger football field from the hours of 4:30 to 9 at any point in the summer and
all year, really.
Fall.
Yeah, at any point. I was going to say, if you're looking for a good cause to donate to, Jordan Football does do fundraising.
We do.
Which helps players cover their fees so that they can, be a part of the team and participate in the activities, regardless of their financial situation. So as business owners, I know like we pay a fee, and we get to actually have like a banner on the side of the football field, which promotes our business. It's a marketing expense. It's a write-off. It's also a contribution to the program so that a kid can play. So if you're a business owner listening to this and want to donate, contact me, or
there should be a Slack channel of just Jordan football banners.
I have 3, 6, 9, 10 Slack workspaces, not channels, workspaces. I don't know if I have the mental capacity for another.
I will run it.
You should absolutely run a Jordan B. Digger Utah community Slack channel. And if anyone listening wants to be part of that or wants to donate, let us know. We will help you get to the right place.
And we have a lot of awesome things on the docket this year. New lights. We're getting a brand new video board this year. And so not just banners, but there will also be a way for you to purchase ad space on our video board as well. So
you're getting like a whole new facility in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Next,
great.
An indoor and new indoor practice facility.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if you want to pioneer that, let us know. Oh my goodness gracious. The very last thing that we need to talk about, and then we will end it, is a couple weeks ago, you asked me to chaperone prom with you.
Oh gosh.
Oh yes.
I remember. I have told Joey that I'm going to prom by myself because I have not been answered yet. Oh,
to receive an answer.
Good gravy.
But today that all changes. So Mark asked me to chaperone prom by giving me a poster that said it would be feminine nominal if he would chaperone prom with me. I won't admit how long it took me to figure out chaperone sounds like chaperone. I came up with that by myself. It was amazing. It was great.
If you need free marketing, I actually come up with very good one-liners. So
he's a teacher through and through from a long line of teachers.
Oh my gosh.
But
oh my goodness.
Where is your answer?
Oh my gosh.
This is the most exciting day that I could have.
Ready? Another poster. It's going to be back on the podcast.
I knew we weren't casual. I'm hot to go to prom with you, but I have to say, good luck, babe.
Cute.
Yes.
Wait, there's more.
Do I get a chaperone shirt?
No.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes, let's go.
And I know you don't eat these, but
You can have them.
they have to go with the hot
Cute.
dough things.
Now we're going to prom officially on Saturday.
Already prom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I asked them because I was like, I think my proms in high school were like in May.
Hey. Yeah.
And they were like, well, we have like ACT, we have like AP testing, we have a bunch of other stuff, but then so ours is at the University of Utah at the Eccles Tower.
Man.
So like that's the only way they can do it. So we're doing it in March.
Always in March because I've been getting Facebook memories of my prom dresses.
Put it on the pod.
You're going to have to post a picture on our Instagram for all of our listeners so that we can see your guys' prom picture.
We'll even do like the old prom picture pose.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark, so much for being on the show. We're grateful you were able to come.
This was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your friendships with Joey. I appreciate what you do to help Joey out. You guys are absolute rock stars. So
the wind beneath my geese's wings, as
That's
they
going to be our analogy we use.
there's been a couple times that I thought I've got Becca crying just
I get really emotional on podcasts.
when she's not making fun of me.
Oh, I never make fun of anyone. What are you talking about?
Thanks for being you, big.
No problem.
You're amazing.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning in to the Profitability Podcast. For more business and finance content, follow us on Instagram at The Profitability Project LLC or visit our website at theprofitabilityproject.com.